The film begins in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where our protagonist, Arthur Bishop, is living a peaceful life attempting to leave behind his dark past as a hitman. He has seemingly faked his own death and adopted a new identity to remain anonymous. Arthur resides on a yacht in a picturesque coastal area where he starts each day with a cup of coffee and his favorite music before going for a morning jog. To deter potential thieves, he's rigged his boat with a bomb as a precaution. One day Arthur visits a familiar restaurant with a sea view where he's known by everyone. However, his peaceful meal is disrupted when a stranger named Renee approaches him. She claims to have been searching for him for a long time and reveals that she works for a dangerous boss. This boss wants Arthur to eliminate 3 enemies, discreetly making their deaths appear natural. Reluctant and confused, Arthur attempts to walk away, but Renee threatens to reveal his location if he refuses. Arthur surveys his surroundings and realizes he's surrounded by Renee's armed associates. When Renee tries to take his picture, he quickly snaps a photo of her instead, catching her off guard. Tensions escalate, and the situation takes a dangerous turn when Renee pulls out a gun. However, Arthur reacts swiftly, pushing the table toward her to restrict her movements. He effortlessly defeats all the goons who attack him. Feeling outnumbered, he spots an opportunity to escape and jumps onto the roof of a passing sky tram. Renee and her men follow, attempting to shoot him from inside the tram. Renee even tries to climb up to him, but Arthur makes a daring jump onto a hang glider, successfully evading his pursuers. When night falls, he returns to his boat only to discover suspicious men inspecting it. In response, he activates strategically placed bombs, causing the yacht to explode and eliminating the threats instantly. Following this, Arthur goes to an old container where he stashes his weapons and tools, including forged passports and mobile phones. He takes some money with him and relocates to a secluded island in Thailand. There, he reunites with his friend May, who generously allows him to stay in his untouched hut. After May leaves, Arthur opens a hidden compartment in the wooden floor, revealing more weapons and tools. Determined to protect himself and uncover more about Renee, Arthur begins investigating her using a secret system. He uploads the picture he took of Renee earlier and discovers her connection to a dangerous criminal named Crain, with whom Arthur shares a dark history. The next day, a woman named Gina arrives at May's beach resort seeking first aid supplies for her bruises. May notices her injuries and asks about them, but Gina remains silent and leaves. Later, May hears screams coming from a nearby boat and witnesses Gina being mistreated by a man named Frank. Concerned for her safety, May turns to Arthur for help despite his reluctance to get involved. Feeling a sense of responsibility toward May, Arthur takes a closer look at the situation through binoculars and heads to the boat. Despite his attempts to reason with Frank, a physical altercation ensues, resulting in Frank's accidental death. Upon seeing Frank's lifeless body, Gina passes out. May brings her safely to the shore while Arthur searches the boat. To his surprise, he discovers a gun, Gina's passport, and a phone with a picture of himself. Disturbed by the discovery, Arthur sets the boat on fire and returns to the hut. He confronts Gina about her connection to Crain, waking her up and showing her the picture. Initially reluctant to reveal anything, Gina eventually admits that she was blackmailed into working for Crain, who had something significant to hold over her. Gina reveals that she used to run a shelter for human trafficking victims in Cambodia. Life was peaceful until Crain's henchmen killed one of her staff members. They forced Gina into accepting a mission and threatened to harm the children under her care. The next day, Arthur notices a boat with men observing the shore nearby. He suspects they are sent by Crain to monitor Gina's mission. To throw them off, Arthur and Gina pretend to be a couple, engaging in traditional Thai customs. As the evening unfolds, Gina apologizes to Arthur for involving him in her dangerous situation. In return, Arthur shares his painful history, revealing that he was once an orphan sold to a gangster who trained child soldiers. He mentions that Crain was with him during those dark times and they were close. However, when things got tough, Arthur fled, leaving his friend behind. Arthur believes this is why Crain seeks revenge. As they continue sharing their life stories, their bond grows, and they spend the night together. Arthur reassures Gina of her safety and reveals his plan to take down Crain, promising not to carry out the 3 kills as demanded. Instead, he intends to eliminate Crain himself. He gives Gina his father's watch as a gesture of trust and asks her to keep it until he returns. However, their plans take an unexpected turn when a group of policemen arrives at the beach, one of whom is identified as Crain's man. Arthur tries to fight them, but this time he is overpowered and Gina is abducted. To save her he agrees to meet Crain and they finally come face to face after all these years. Crain gives Arthur a daunting ultimatum. To free Gina he must carry out 3 kills while making them appear natural. The first target is Krill, a notorious arms dealer imprisoned in Malaysia under tight security. Arthur prepares by obtaining explosives disguised as chewing gum, shark repellent in a skin cream tin and a hidden capsule in a cigarette. He also creates a fake ID and assumes the identity of a wanted criminal. As he walks on the streets of Malaysia, the police officers take him into custody and send him to prison. Inside the Malaysian prison, Arthur gathers intel on Krill and discovers that his henchmen constantly shadow him due to numerous threats on his life. During lunch, Arthur steals a knife from a fellow prisoner and intervenes when a former henchman attempts to assassinate Krill, saving his life. Impressed by his actions, Krill invites him to dinner and agrees to leave his men outside. Arthur takes full advantage of this opportunity and executes Krill, staging the whole thing to appear as if Krill committed the act. Creates a hole in the prison wall using the explosive gum. He swallows the tracking pill given by Crain and uses shark repellent to jump into the water unnoticed. After successfully evading capture, he rejoins Crain's men on a fishing boat, who were waiting for his arrival in the middle of the ocean. In the next scene, Crain provides video proof of Gina's safety and assigns the next target, Adrian Cook, a human trafficker in Australia. He sets a time limit of 36 hours to eliminate the target. Without wasting any time, Arthur conducts thorough surveillance and learns that Cook's penthouse is heavily fortified except for a cantilever pool extending over the streets. Arthur devises a plan to infiltrate Cook's penthouse from below. Disguised as a millionaire, he schedules a meeting with the realtor of the building expressing interest in buying an apartment below Cook's penthouse. When the realtor is distracted, Arthur makes a copy of the keys. The following day, disguised as a professional technician, Arthur sets out on his mission. Using his duplicate key, he gains access to the apartment the realtor showed him earlier and opens a glass shield to climb up to the swimming pool. He reaches under the pool, drills a hole and sets up a special explosive. Cook jumps into the pool and spots Arthur, but before he can call for help, the glass breaks, leading to Cook's demise. Crain witnesses the incident on the news and admires Arthur's genius. During a video call, Gina cleverly provides Arthur with information about the boat's hull number she is held captive on by positioning herself near a window. Arthur calls the boat company, traces its location using the number, and hires a helicopter to reach it. He arrives with a bag of equipment. Inside the boat, Arthur stealthily eliminates the guards one by one. However, he is eventually captured while trying to rescue Gina. After some time, Crain arrives and warns him not to attempt this again or Gina will be shot. Arthur is assigned his final target, Max Adams, an American arms dealer with a heavily guarded fortress. As Arthur investigates, he discovers that Crain is using these kills to eliminate his competition in the arms trade, raising doubts about the mission. Nevertheless, Arthur proceeds with his plan. He shoots one of Adams' guards from a distance and hides in an emergency helicopter to reach Adams' fortress. Inside, he disables security cameras with a jammer and skillfully takes down the guards. The building goes on high alert and Adams is escorted to his panic room. Arthur delays them with elevator malfunctions, and when Adams reaches his room, Arthur is already inside, proposing an alliance to take down Crain. Adams reluctantly agrees and they start their plan by faking his death. Later, as Adams is inspecting his submarines, a well-planned bomb explodes, causing him to drown. Arthur is prepared underwater and saves him. They share an oxygen tank and reach the nearest beach safely. Crain watches the incident on television and believes Adams is buried underwater due to the explosion. In the aftermath, Arthur contacts Crain claiming responsibility for the third kill. Crain remains doubtful until he sees concrete evidence of Adams' death. Arthur urges Crain to visit Adams' submarine to find his dead body there. Crain orders his men to locate Adams' body and deal with Arthur, but as they approach the location, Arthur sets up a series of lethal traps. Crain's henchmen fall into the traps or become victims of Arthur's stealthy approach, making Crain increasingly aware of the threat Arthur poses. Realizing he's the next target, Crain uses Gina as bait to lure Arthur, placing her outside on the boat. As Arthur approaches underwater, he launches a ruthless assault on Crain's guards, eliminating them one by one. Gina tries to help but gets injured during the scuffle. Arthur secures her in an emergency release pod for her safety. He eliminates all of Crain's henchmen and finally confronts Crain in a brutal hand-to-hand showdown. Crain activates a bomb on the boat and a tense fight ensues. Arthur gains the upper hand and binds Crain to the boat with an anchor chain. However, shortly afterward the boat explodes, seemingly killing them both. From a distance, Gina watches in despair, believing that Arthur has sacrificed himself to take down Crain. Months pass and Gina returns to Cambodia with the kids, moving on from the incident. However, one morning Arthur surprises her by showing up out of nowhere, apparently unharmed. Meanwhile, Adams investigates the remnants of Crain's boat and discovers the ingenious plan that allowed Arthur's escape. Impressed by his resourcefulness, Adams decides to delete the security footage to safeguard Arthur's future. The film ends with Arthur and Gina free from Crain's grip, marking a new chapter in their lives, filled with hope and the promise of a brighter future.